Impeachment trial proceedings pick up steam, with both the Constitutional Court and investigators moving forward. We look at the major political issues ahead. The Korean government unveils its economic blueprint for the year, putting forth a number of key priorities to jumpstart the economy. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un takes the podium for his New Year's address. Following a year of endless provocations, what plans does he have for 2017? All this right ahead. Welcome to News Inside. I'm Arirang. Let's meet our panelists. Professor Shin Sang-hyuk from Kyung University Graduate School of International Studies is back with us. And Dr. Bong Young-sik from Yonsei University Institute for North Korean Studies is back as well. The year 2017 is now upon us. After the turmoil over the massive influence peddling scandal, we're all looking forward to more stability and signs of improvement. Let's begin with the latest from the political front.
The Special Prosecutor's investigation team led by Park Young-soo has said that it plans on wrapping up its probe into the power abuse Choi Soon-sil scandal by early March. A large number of key figures are being questioned by the team, and in the new year, the prosecution could investigate the president for bribery and other allegations, which would be the first for a sitting Korean president. Over at the National Assembly, with the ruling Saenuri Party now having split, lawmakers face a four-party system. Speaker Chung Se-gyun and the four floor leaders have agreed to hold an extraordinary session from January 9th to the 20th. The Constitutional Court is stepping up on the proceedings for the impeachment trial on President Park. The timing and the content of its final decision will determine when the country will hold its next presidential election.
국민이 납득할 수 있는 투명한 법 절차에 따라 사안을 철저히 심사하여 공정하고 신속하게 결론을 내리겠습니다.
Those in the political circle believe the ruling will likely be issued before the term of some of the justices comes to an end. If the court upholds the impeachment, according to the Constitution, the country must hold elections within 60 days. On the other hand, if it dismisses the motion, election day will land on the original date of December 20th. The influence peddling scandal that erupted last year continues to weigh down the country this year. We look at some of the key issues to keep a close eye on.
Professor Shin, politically, what kind of change are you most looking forward to this year?
Year 2017 will be another very tough year because there will be early presidential election and there should be a discussion about the constitution change, revision. And there must be many things to be decided. So I wish the politicians should put the first priorities on the Korean people and the interest of the Republic of Korea, not their personal interest or the interest of the political parties which they are belonging to.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Bong, what about you?
Dissipating uncertainties because of the scandals is the priority goal for politicians for this year, 2017, because uncertainty are not only bad for functioning of a sound economy, but also politics.
Yes, toward that end, the Constitutional Court held two hearings this week on President Park's case, and the Special Prosecutor's investigation is also picking up speed. When do you think we can expect the results?
It is one of the very difficult questions to answer. There are several scenarios. Maybe all decisions will be completed by the end of March. That means that the early presidential election will be conducted the early June or something like that. But I think at the moment what we have to focus on is the comments coming from the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court clearly announced that they will hold the two hearings per week. And when we consider the process for Nomuyon impeachment case, at the time after 7 hearings, Constitutional Court made a final ruling. So certainly considering the announcement from the Constitutional Court, it would be conducted faster than our expectation.
They're trying to move as fast as they can, it seems. Well, if impeachment was one of the most prominent issues of 2016, this year it looks like it'll all be about the presidential race, with an early election looking more and more likely. Many presidential hopefuls are stirring. How do you see the competition shaping up?
The competition is shaping up quite far earlier than expected. 2017 was already expected to be a very tumultuous year because of the scheduled presidential election originally in December. But because of the scandals and the Constitutional Court's decision on the president's impeachment, then there is a high probability that the presidential election may be held before summer. So the race is still on. Already on, and we see a lot of presidential hopefuls already jockeying to get the position. And one thing that we have to remember is that we tend to regard that the presidential election in South Korea has been neatly divided along the ideological line, that conservative candidate on one hand and the candidate from the progressive side on the other hand. But that's far from the truth. If you look back the political history of Korea, then presidential elections in most times were multi-party contests. We have had more than two major candidates competing in presidential election, like the one in 1987, since the democratic transition. So the current complex and complicated aspects of presidential jockeying is not anomaly in political culture and history of Korea. It has been the normal aspect.
Looks like we might have multiple candidates this time around too, but from the sides of both the conservatives and the progressives, they would think that they would have a better chance if they had a unified candidate.
Otherwise, they would not waste their effort and money to run for the president's office, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see a lot of multiple candidates from the conservative faction and the multiple candidates from the liberal faction. So it's in cloud. It's very uncertain to predict.
Yes, it is still early days, but what are some of the biggest issues that could shape the presidential race? A recent survey shows that most people expect economic policies to be at the forefront, followed by welfare, constitutional reform, and national security, along with unification. So a lot of people see the economy as being the most urgent task of the year. Would you agree?
Yes, I do. Well, first of all, the Korean economy is heavily rely on the external trade. If I give you some figure, out of total GDP, the 84.8% produced from the trade. This is the figure we have. How about the China? Chinese trade out of total GDP is 41.2%. In case of Japan, 36.8%. Even in Mexico, which has been criticized the bad balanced economic structure, they have 72.8%. They produce 72.8% from the external trade out of total GDP. So ours are highest one. Considering this economic structure, trade policy change, which of the new American government seems to be one of the serious obstacles for the Korean economy. As we know very well, President-elect Mr. Trump has emphasized that the American government should have to take more protectionistic trade policies. Well, considering this figure economic structure we have, definitely can be one of the serious the issues we have to tackle on. Second one is the increase of the basic interest rate in the United States. Very recently, American Federal Reserves increased the basic interest rates from 0.5% to 0.75%. More US dollars will leave Korea, and Federal Reserve decide to increase its basic interest rate. Subsequently, Bank of Korea should have to consider to increase the interest rates. Then it can be a very heavy burden on the national economy. Look at the household debt. We have about 1,300 trillion household debt. This is really very, very negative aspects of the Korean economy. If the interest rate increase, definitely it can be additional burden on the Korean household, and if the Korean household have such a kind of pressure, they will refrain themselves from spending more money. Then vicious circle will start in Korean economy. So this is one of the negative aspects of the Korean economy in 2017.
That's why there are growing calls to stem the uncertainty emanating from political instability and place a strong emphasis on economic recovery. The government has also rolled up its sleeves to meet these demands. Take a look at some of the economic policy guidelines for this year.
The Korean government says it will take proactive macroeconomic measures for the new year ahead, with the key focus being on risk management, improving people's livelihoods, corporate restructuring, and future planning.
재정, 정책금융 등 가용 재원을 최대한 동원해서 20조 원 이상 경기를 보강하고 1, 4분기에 역대 최고 수준으로 조기 집행을 하겠습니다.
Finance Minister Yoo Il-do said one of the main tasks will be reviving consumer sentiment and corporate investment appetite. Also, given the economy's vulnerability to external conditions, maintaining stability in the financial markets and on the foreign exchange front will also be a priority. In terms of people's livelihoods, the government said it plans to add on 60,000 new jobs in the public sector, offering support for the self-employed and cutting down costs to help boost household real income are some of the other tasks that will be pursued.
가계부채 증가율을 한 자릿수로 안정시키고 분할 상환, 고정금리 확대 등 주택담보대출의 질적 구조 개선 노력을 제2금융권으로 확산시켜 나가겠습니다.
The top economic policymaker also spoke of the fourth industrial revolution and how the global business order is undergoing transformation. In order for the Korean economy to address these changes and overcome challenges ahead, he emphasized the need to restructure the corporate sector and carry out key reforms.
Deputy Prime Minister cum Finance Minister Yoo Il-do seems confident that Korean exports will snap the negative growth seen over the past 2 years. Do you think this is possible, and what might be some stumbling blocks?
On the part of the minister himself, he should give some hope to the Korean people. But as I already explained, the real face of the Korean economy, facing the Korean economy is not that much easy. It's going to be another tough year. Well, we have to finish corporate restructuring this year. This is one of the very important tasks. And another one is because of the Mr. Trump's policy, the US dollars will be stronger. That means that Korean won value against US dollar will be depreciated. That means on the short-term basis, on the export side, it's going to be good for us. But we have to consider the inputs because we have to import lots of raw materials and oil. But the minister, the Yoo Il-do, emphasized the efficient the measures, particularly risk management, seems to be one of the few remaining area which government can do. By improving the efficiency in risk management, certainly we can reduce the unnecessary loss in our Korean economy. And at the same time, he also emphasized that he will make every effort to attract more foreign direct investment into Korea. But when you look at the global situation, it's not very easy though, because global economy has been slowed down over the last several years, and because of the domestic political turmoil, and the Korean economy has been slowed down. So, how the government will implement those kind of things in the form of the policies, that will be one of the very important tasks for the Korean government. Lastly, because of the political turmoil, and because of some failures of the Korean economic policies over the several years, people do not trust the government. Without support from the people, it's going to be very, very difficult. So the government should have to consider at this point how to get the trust from the people on their economic policies would be a very important task for them.
Yes, and diplomacy will no doubt have a part to play in these efforts to help revive the economy, but we're at a bit of a loss there as well.
A bit of a loss there, right. We can approach the issue from many different angles. First, what about our trade to the United States? It seems like the United States has been the only country doing well in a very stagnant world economy. Last year, the unemployment rate of the United States was one of the lowest at 4.6%. It was the lowest in the past 9 years. And the third quarter economic growth rate was 3.5%. And the Dow Jones and S&P 500 stock index has been soaring after the election victory of Mr. Donald Trump. So if the United States economy is continue to perform well, and if it creates a kind of trickle-down effect to the rest of the world, then it's all peaches and cream. But the problem is that there might be a phenomenon of separation or decoupling between booming U.S. economy on one hand and the rest of the world still stagnant. So the booming economy of the United States may not be really producing any positive effect for the rest of the world, including South Korea. And the concern is that since Mr. Donald Trump pronounced rather protectionist trade policy toward U.S. trading partners, including South Korea, then South Korea may well be singled out as one of the so-called cheaters, and the United States may strengthen its demand to revise the existing KORUS FTA in favor of the United States, especially the automobile trade and the agricultural trade. Then even with the booming U.S. economy, South Korean economy will remain in a very difficult conditions.
And we are facing something of a power vacuum at the
Power
moment.
vacuum at the same time. So somebody has to represent the government and enter into a very tough but necessary negotiations with Washington to represent the South Korean national economy. But under current political climate, it is very difficult to expect.
Yeah. Well, the public will be more interested in real economic issues like employment, income growth, business conditions, purchasing power, real estate, etc.
Yes.
But do we have anything to look forward to economically?
According to the announcement from the Ministry of Economy, Minister Yu emphasized that he will make every effort to boost domestic consumption. But they did not give some detailed policy to us, so we have to wait and see. And to boost the domestic consumption, I think to make the big business conglomerate spend more money, invest more money, it seems to be very important. As you know very well, they had huge amount of money in their pocket. They are very hesitant to make investment in this year because of the political instability or political challenges we have. So the government should have to persuade them to increase their investment. Very recently, one of the big business conglomerate, SK, they made a plan. They made the 3 trillion won investment plan. I think this is one of the good examples. By increasing investment on the short-term or mid-term basis, they can provide more jobs to the young, the youth in Korea. Secondly, by doing so, the Korean domestic economy can be revitalized to some degree. But another thing is the housing industry, real estate market. Right now, demands for, purchasing the trends, the new apartments or house has been decreased very rapidly, cool down the real estate market very rapidly. But when you look at the other side of the housing market, that total number of the houses will be scheduled to be provided this year is over than the demand. So this is one of the dark side of the real estate market in Korea. Then what kind of measures the government should take? I think we have to wait. Everything is interrelated. So it's not easy for me. Korean economy this year will be very good, but I don't want to say that the economy will be quite, one of the worst years, in the near future. But anyway, we have to wait.
I can't help trying to help Professor Shin, who has been struggling to cast every possible positive light on South Korean economy in year 2017. So let me give my 2 cents, although I'm not an expert in economy. What about China? This time last year, in 2016, what happened? The crash of Shanghai stock market. And everybody predicted that Chinese economy finally hit the bottom and lost the long-term growth potential. But somehow, somewhere, the Xi Jinping government has achieved the targeted annual economic growth rate at 6.5%.
If the number is to be believed.
Right, it is, the number is to be believed, but the 6.5%, that's not a small achievement.
No.
And according to the Financial Times analytical report on China's economy in 2017, then Xi Jinping government, encouraged by this better than expected result in 2016, precipitate its initiative to transform Chinese economy from economy based upon manufacturing and heavy and chemical industry to economy based upon expanded domestic consumption. Think about the size of China's population endowed with purchasing power. So if China's economy is going to be on the rise in the year 2017, then South Korea may be able to ride on the positive tide of Chinese economic growth.
Yeah, that's a big condition you come with.
And I like to stick to the positive outlook, because this is the first segment of the year 2017. I do not want to just only talk about negativity.
Thank you very much for your help. And then, two things about Chinese economy I want to make. The first one is, yes, as you, Dr. Bong, pointed out, Chinese economy has a huge potentiality. Second point, well, actually, this is not a good aspect of the Chinese economy. When he considered the statement, saying of the President-elect Mr. Trump, he actually makes some implication that Chinese economy has get the largest piece of cake in the trade with the United States, but it's not fair. So that means that he maybe takes some retaliatory action against China in their trade. That means if actually it can happen, then Chinese economy will be hit by the American decision very negatively. That means subsequently there must be some high possibility that Korea will get some sufferings from the slowdown Chinese economy. So this is kind of a bad scenario. So anyway, we have to wait and see, but definitely I really want to see the situation happening as you expected.
Well, in the meantime, the government has come up with its own new economic policies for this year, and notable among them is the 1 million won or $800 tax benefit for newlyweds, and also the retirement age is now set at 60 for all companies. Do you think changes like these will help improve conditions?
Well, these are all good and necessary for targeted population in South Korean society. But my concern is whether these measures are only producing marginal positive effect.
Not long-term enough.
Like long-term effect, or maybe we are neglecting the elephant in the room. Maybe the government is busy providing band-aids to the South Korean consumers and households, while many South Korean households are suffering from more serious diseases like diabetes, requiring more serious decisions or substantial government interventions. Because according to this recent report by the conservative newspaper Joseon Daily News, then for the past 20 years, the benefits of economic growth or government intervention in the market have primarily benefited the corporations as opposed to households. But these corporations have not been using this money for renovation or investment. On the other hand, since the experience of financial crisis, the household debt has been soaring. As you pointed out, that now the household debt has reached 1,300 trillion wons. So something has to be done to take care of this ticking time bomb. If the housing market collapses for whatever reasons,
and the interest rate goes up.
Right, with the interest rate goes up, and if the construction companies and the banks who back these construction companies go belly up, then they will be extremely disastrous to overall national economy. And as Professor Shin correctly pointed out, then the Korean consumers and the investors have not seen very detailed and reliable roadmap proposed by the South Korean government. So we are dealing with these uncertainties despite some new and creative ideas proposed by the other government, helping infants and pregnant women and the newly married couples. But we have to tackle the main issues. First things first.
Well, no doubt with the election coming up, these economic issues will feature prominently on the list of campaign pledges.
I think so.
By the
Definitely,
presidential
because
hopefuls.
at the moment, the political issue seems to be everything to us. But I think if political issues started to be solved, definitely people started to pay attention to real, economy, because it will be directly affect the people's life, daily life. So it will be very important. So, as I explained already, the government role seems to be very important. Particularly, they should have to cooperate with the private sector, including particularly with the big business conglomerates. The private sector should increase their investment to boost domestic consumption. Without those kind of cooperation from the private sector, I think the government measures are very limited.
All right, let's now turn our attention to North Korea. We saw leader Kim Jong-un open the year with his regular New Year's address. Here are some of the highlights.
친애하는 동지들, 하루하루를 격동적인 투쟁의 날과 날로 빛내인 2016년을 보내고 새해 2017년을 맞이합니다.
On the first day of the new year, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un addressed the nation in his 5th annual New Year speech. One of the first areas that drew attention was the leader's emphasis on nearing the final completion of intercontinental ballistic missile technology. Former North Korean diplomat Tae Young-ho, who defected to the South last year, has also testified that the Kim regime will take all necessary measures to win recognition as a de facto nuclear power.
빨리 핵 개발을 완성해서 새로 집권한 미국 정부와 한국 정부와 바로 북한이 도달한 핵 보유국 지위에서 새로운 대화를 시작한다는 도식입니다. 1조, 10조 달러를 준다 해도 북한은 핵무기를 절대 포기하지 않을 것입니다.
In terms of inter-Korean relations, the leader criticized the Park Geun-hye administration but also emphasized the need to improve ties. He also urged neighboring countries to take their part in helping the two Koreas see unification. Towards the very end of his speech, the young leader, in unprecedented language, admitted his shortcomings and the guilt that comes with it, expressions not seen under the former Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il regimes. Meanwhile, Seoul's Unification Ministry said the address lacked substance and details of what new vision the leader has.
대체적으로는 체제 결속에 의미가 보여져 있다라고 볼 수가 있고요. 큰 원칙적인 방향을 제시하기 때문에 구체적인 수치라든지 그런 것들은 나올 수가 없습니다.
The North Korean regime in the past year has carried out bold actions of provocation. We look at what to expect from Pyongyang in the new year.
Kim Jong-un made some unprecedented remarks in this year's address. Most surprisingly, he acknowledged his quote-unquote shortcomings. And
I guess that shows that he's getting older and wiser and more humble. Right?
Oh, really? He also promises to be a loyal servant to his people. Where is this coming from? Don't tell us
The
that he's
sense
being
of
humble.
modesty and the humble attitude. I guess it's his new approaches to the North Korean people to earn their hearts and minds after the North Korean economic policy has not been so successful in terms of actually uplifting and improving the living standards of the North Korean people for the past 3 years. We remember that he tried to earn the trust and popularity of the people, at least the residents in Pyongyang City, by building a lot of the children's playgrounds and special places. Throwing at people presents and gifts, I think hit the saturation point, and majority of North Korean people have not really seen or felt the palpable outcomes of the new leadership's economic policy. So I think Kim Jong-un, changed the approach to show the humble side of the leadership, following his grandfather's strategy to be the caring parents of the common people, to have another round of the support. We remember that he had the 7th Party Congress last May of 2016. So there is no question that Kim Jong-un has consolidated his power as an absolute leader. So I guess the fact that he could afford to be apologetic, and the fact that he could admit his shortcomings and mistakes candidly implies that he gained confidence about his leadership and power position.
Also notable was his mention of the political situation here in the South. He didn't exactly say impeachment, but he did talk of turmoil here.
Yes, the President Park Geun-hye was impeached on December 9th. Since that time on, the North Koreans, criticized the Korean leader, Park Geun-hye, and her administration. But it's quite interesting for us to count the number of the criticism they made since that time on. Before that, on December 9th, when impeachment was decided, 33 times the North Korean media criticized the South Korean president and then the political leaders.
They couldn't stop talking about it.
But since the impeachment was made, what number of the criticism made by the North Korean media reduced dramatically. It was only 19 times. And on the top of the reducing number of the criticism made by the North Korean media, while they did not use about impeachment or the people's power or candle rally, or those kind of things. Definitely, as I think already discussed once, the North Korean leader, he is afraid of the people's power. By reporting those kind of situations happening in Korea, it may be learning effects which North Koreans can get from the report. They can expel the leader, they can change the top leaders, those kind of things, maybe the concerning point which North Korean top leaders can have.
So do you think Kim Jong-un's strategy of appearing to be a humble and caring parent figure worked? What kind of reaction do you think North Korean people had to his New Year's address?
Because of their inherent fear of punishment by the government, North Korean public is likely to continue to hide their true feelings or responses to the New Year's message by Kim Jong-un. But it seems like Kim Jong-un himself is very much privy to the new reality in which majority of the North Korean public has easy access to objective information about the reality inside North Korea and the outside world. Knowing this, Kim Jong-un abandoned the usual practice, the flat denial of the reality, and praising the enormous achievements that North Korea has accomplished thanks to the great leadership of party, but rather just humbly and candidly admitted the shortcomings of the policy. Because the assumption is that whatever the New Year's message would argue, the North Korean public is already aware of what has actually happened in the year 2016. So the first line of business for Kim Jong-un leadership when deliver the New Year's message is to try to stop the rising cynicism and distrust in the government and try to somehow galvanize public's support for the Kim Jong-un leadership in some ways, preparing for the new year.
Well, Kim Jong-un did emphasize North Korea's nuclear capabilities. Do you think this was with the incoming Trump administration in mind?
I think so. In this year's New Year's address, Kim Jong-un indicated that North Korea is in the final stages of testing a missile with the nuclear weapon, which can hit the targets in the United States. about this, statements, Mr. Trump, they responded that it won't happen.
Right.
And so
On his Twitter.
so, yes. So I think definitely there must be some messages from his New Year address to new president of the United States. So I think this will be very important. But they just throw the first ball. I mean, we have to wait what kind of the follow-up measures both countries will take. But definitely, USA does not want to accept the fact that North Korea would have the ICBM, which can hit the targets in the United States.
Well, Seoul's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se thinks North Korea will be more provocative this year, that we will see more provocations. What do you think?
According to some testimonies by North Korean officials, it seems like Kim Jong-un regime is going to remain in a very cautious wait-and-see mode, at least until late spring, when U.S. forces in South Korea and the Korean military will begin their annual joint military exercise, a key resolve. Because there are simply too much uncertainties that North Korea cannot handle effectively. Think about it. Everybody's talking about Trumponomics, but even the major government officials in charge of U.S. economy inside the Trump administration do not seem to be ready to effectively and confidently explain what Trumponomics actually mean. What about Trump's foreign policy? Well, who knows? With the confidence about the likely foreign policy that will be orchestrated by Mr. Donald Trump's national security team, including the newly appointed Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, who was the CEO of ExxonMobil. And same with North Korea. North Korea does not have the good grasp about what kind of North Korea policy will be coming from Washington in the coming years. Because even Donald Trump himself does not seem to come up with a very solid policy toward nuclear North Korea. So you cannot prepare for something that does not exist yet. So it seems like Kim Jong-un regime will just try to draw attention from the Trump administration by signaling that, look at us, we are armed with nuclear weapons, we should not be disregarded, but nothing more than that will be made until there is a more solid manifestation of North Korea policy from Washington that Pyongyang will definitely perceive and get ready to prepare for.
Right, well, it is time for us to wrap up. Any final words you'd like to share with us?
Well, I did already the same thing several times already, but I think we spent quite several months to discuss about Korean politics. But considering the situations facing the Korean economy in the nation and abroad, definitely this is time for us to think about the Korean economy very seriously.
Dr. Bohm?
Who would have imagined that we will be roiled in the unprecedented political scandals and a national crisis only 100 days ago? But I think this is a growing pain, necessary, if not beneficial, to long-term growth of Korean democracy. So as long as the government can keep the national economy in control, then this turbulent time may be remembered by the future generations as a precious experience.
Trying to keep your spirits positive until the very last minute.
We just have begun a new year.
Yes.
Right?
Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today. And that is all for this edition of News Inside. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with more next week.